If I take these off and you see these marks on the side of my nose, you're gonna ignore them, okay? I'm going to actually make myself a nice little coffee. So the kettle's gonna start boiling very soon and you're not gonna be able to hear me at all. I said that I would film something. To how to I'm gonna do this later. Done. Today what I was gonna do is I was just gonna film a little vlog around home, and as I vlog around home I thought, why not talk about my writing process, because I had a couple questions about it, how I stayed motivated and how I finished a full draft of a thing. How do I actually sit down and start writing when I have no idea what this is actually going to turn out to be? It's going to be very unstructured, this video, but that's because I'm a relatively unstructured person. So the one thing that's most difficult is think about the order of which I want to say it. Don't get mad at me, guys, but I'm going to use a tea towel to clean. I want to orientate you guys on my a bit of my process, myself, and the actual projects, and the time frame it took me, my thoughts about each project, because I have a lot of projects, writing projects, but there are two main projects that I want to talk about because they are so entirely different and they've had completely different processes and completely different outcomes. And I want to talk about the difference between them and why they took different paths. And I mainly want to talk about why they had different paths in hopes of just kind of showing that every project has a different thing and that you should have different expectations for things. Anyway, I'm going to talk about the different process. So the main one, the one that I actually posted about finishing, was called Blinding and Binding, and it's a Greek mythology retelling, reimagining, Beauty and the Beast, Medusa kind of thing. It was a really fun thing to write. It was actually my first project that I actually ever finished. It was the first draft I ever finished. I've now finished a couple more since then. None of them that you'll ever get to see, because they are absolutely atrocious, but that's the thing. First drafts are always atrocious. But this one, it took me a good 2 years to actually write fully, and it ended up being just under 50,000 words. So that's a very small word count, not one that you could send to an agent and get picked up on, because you need to have between 60, 70 is the minimum. 60, 70 is the minimum word count. Obviously it's also a first draft, so why would I send that to an agent? That's one of the most appalling pieces of writing I've probably ever done. I mean, good 2 years, and every time I sat down, I would write between 200 to 800 words. I think there was only 2 times that I ever exceeded 1,000 words, and both times that was over 2,000 words were written. And it was only twice. During this time, I was at school and I was at uni, so I was not writing every day. I was just writing when I felt like it, when I could, when I was procrastinating studying, it was the first big one. It took me 2 years to finish, so I finished it in April this year. So I finished that one in April, and then I started in around end of June, start of July, I started writing Project Trapped, and it's a completely different story. It's still fantasy fiction, still young adult. It was so much easier to write. Under a month, I wrote 40,000 words, and I was writing on average 3,000 words a day. It was a very different project. I wrote so much more, not because it was easier to write, but also it was kind of easier to write because they are, again, 2 very different projects. Blinding and Binding was very character focused and character driven. There was more internal conflicts than external. And Project Trapped, whilst there's character conflict, there's also external settings, conflict, plot conflict, and then there's reactions, obviously, because the plot is the character's reactions to the changing of the setting and the other conflicts. So yeah, it was more externally based, and it was just, with Blinding and Binding, I found it so hard to write because it was very internally focused in the character, and so I had to think about these really deep thought processes and how to then convey them onto the screen through my writing. So it took a really long time for me to try and get the wording right for that. Whereas Project Trapped, I have a little bit of internal monologues and little bits and pieces in there, getting to know my characters, but it's less so. It's more focused on the outside and their reactions, and you kind of see what their internal process is and their morals and their beliefs and values through their actions more so, which is good. It's also written in third person limited as opposed to first person, so again, less trapped inside the head, less internal processes. It was just so much easier for me to write. So I haven't finished Project Trapped yet. I'm planning to finish that one in the summer holidays coming up. During the uni semester, I barely write. I do absolutely nothing. I haven't written anything. It's week 12. Next week I have my final in-semester assessment, and then I have final exams after that for 3 weeks, so But those are my two projects, two different timelines, two different like word counts, two different goals, but they are so different. Each project has a different timeline, and I think that's one of my points. Basically, I think I want you to think about your different projects, and I want you to not get upset over only writing like 100 words a day, or only writing 20 words a day. There was some times when I would only write 20 words, and at first, when I was first starting writing, I'd be so upset when I didn't write 500 words. I'd be like, oh my god, I didn't write 500 words. Because most of the time I was writing 200 to 300 in a day. And that was across a full day. Like I'd sit down multiple times to write, and I would really it would be really difficult for me to write anything more. It was a difficult thing, and that's what I want to tell you guys. It's just, it's gonna be a different process for everything, everyone, different times. You're gonna have different things on, different expectations, and other external factors excluding writing. Yeah, so I think the big thing is give yourself grace. Different projects are gonna have different timelines, and that's a big thing. I also think if it's your first time ever finishing a first draft, that is really hard because you've never done it before. You don't have that, I've done it before, I can do it. It's really hard, and it may take you 2 years. It may take you longer than 2 years, and I think that's okay. It's definitely okay. Also, don't limit yourself to just one project. Sometimes one project can be really boring, and you can just, or you feel like you're trapped and you're like, oh my gosh, I've hit a roadblock. I don't know what to write. I don't know how to write this. Write a different project. Come up with something completely different. Write something in a completely different genre. Maybe write poetry. That's a big thing as well. Like read and write poetry. Read something different to what you read. Read to study people's writing, and then also read for enjoyment. So there's two different kinds of reading. Reading to study writing, I've honestly like learnt to integrate the two. It's so bad, but also it's really good because I really enjoy it. But yeah, so I've learnt to integrate. So either when you hit a roadblock, I think switch to something completely different, or if you don't want to switch to something different, here is my pro tip that I love and I still do, and I even do it in academic assignments, like not in like creative writing or anything. I put a bunch of asterisks. You know when you hold down shift and then you press the number 8 and that little star thing comes up? I put about 6 of them in a row, and then I go insert scene, insert character description, insert better synonym for sad. Sometimes I literally just put it in there for a singular word. Sometimes it's a chapter, sometimes it's a scene, sometimes a character, sometimes I'm like, I don't know, add some dialogue, and then I will finish that and I will add another 6 asterisks. And then I will continue writing what I want to write or what I know I can write. There's no point sitting there muddling around with the part that you don't feel comfortable writing. There's no point doing that when you could just move on. And what you do then is at the end of the draft, or maybe you have this massive idea, you're like, oh my god, I know what to do for the dialogue. I know what to do for the character description. I want to have a go at it. You go Command F or Control F, so the find feature, and you look up the asterisks, and every asterisk, every time you know on insert something, blah, 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 I need to do something here, it'll come up in the find feature. At first, I wasn't very comfortable with doing that. And then as time went on, I was like, it's actually not that serious for me because I'm not doing anything with my writing. I'm just doing it for fun at the moment. I would do it and I grew more comfortable with doing it. I was like, it's okay, like I'll come back to it eventually. And your story's probably gonna change. So maybe that dialogue that you wanted to write in isn't actually gonna be there because the whole chapter's gonna be deleted. So you don't need to be precious about that. So that's another thing. If you're getting stumped, it's okay, you can move on to something else. Especially if you're a linear writer. I've heard that non-linear writers have it a little bit, I don't wanna say easier, but they're a lot of my friends who are non-linear writers, they say that they're less likely to fall into writer's block because they write what they want to write as opposed to what comes next linearly. I'm a very linear writer. I like to write chronologically from what I've planned out, but that's a me thing. So, and I don't really get writer's block. Tap wood. I don't want to get writer's block. That'll be really bad. If you are either a chronological writer or even a non-chronological writer, like a non-linear linear, I think you should try and have some kind of plan, even if you're just plotting out the 3 hits, the 3 acts. I think you should try and do it. But my next thing is, if you find that first draft really daunting, I want you to look up what a zero draft is. I want you to look up what a zero draft is, and I want you to try it. I'm gonna try and explain what a zero draft is because I use it. I know that there's Esme J. Pearson on TikTok. She made a really good video explaining how she uses a zero draft, and I think it's really good. It's identical to what I do, and she posted it recently, so it's a really good one. I'll link it for you guys to go see. But basically a zero draft is, I think Esme describes it as the first draft is the paint strokes on the canvas, right? The start. And the zero draft is the canvas itself. So in order to paint anything, you need a canvas. And the zero draft is like a plan, I guess. My zero drafts always end up being somewhere between like 10,000 to 30,000, most of mine. And then I've got one that's going on 50,000 at the moment, which is longer than my actual first draft for blinding and binding, which is crazy. Zero draft is basically you just put anything and everything you can think about. It doesn't even have to make logical sense at this stage. Basically, I come up with a plot line, I come up with random character descriptions, I come up with random interactions, I just pop them down on the page. It's not even in order. It's not even in chronological order, this first draft at the start. I could just put everything down. Okay, this is from my fanfiction people. You know how you can have like an AU of a thing? So let's say there's a Marauders, like Harry Potter's parents, and you know, Remus Lupin, Sirius Black, Mary McDonald. They might have like a Hunger Games AU, aka Crimson Rivers, an AU, putting them into a different scenario altogether. I actually do a lot of that in my zero drafts. I put them in a ancient historical AU, like maybe they're in the Trojan War, because it's all about getting to know your characters and getting to know your world and building this kind of base that you can then go, oh, I like this bit. Oh yeah, I like this bit. Oh yeah, I want this to happen. And then you start to string it out, and then you can get your plot and your actual outline. What I do after my zero draft, which is a complete and utter mess, but you want it to be, I then make an outline, and this outline is so detailed. I swear. So detailed, it's too detailed. It itself is also a similar length to what my zero draft is, and I end up adding new ideas to this outline. I have like an actual linear outline then, and it's really good. I love it. It's great because sometimes I'll have a chapter or a scene and it'll just be 2 dot points because I don't actually really know what I want to do. I'm like, have this person have a fight with this person, have this person kill this person. Like that's what I do in like dot point form. But sometimes I quite literally will write out an entire chapter in extreme detail to the point where I could literally just copy and paste it, the outline of that chapter, into the actual first draft, and I wouldn't have to change anything. And I have done that before, but sometimes my chapters will be different at different stages of development, and I have my outline. And then after I've done my zero draft and my outline from my zero draft, I then start writing my first draft. And I think that is a big part of it, is that zero draft to outline to first draft process has helped me so much, and I highly recommend you have a go at it. I hope I explained the zero draft, at least how I use the zero draft, well enough for you guys so you understand. If I haven't, I'm very sorry. Comment any questions. I can always verify, try and explain things. I feel like that's really it. I know there's more. Ooh, okay, I'm a psychology student, so I'm a first year psych student. I'm taking second year courses actually. I'm a little bit of an academic weapon, if you guys didn't know. Yeah, it's a struggle, but I'm studying psychology, and a big thing you learn about is classical conditioning. So but I want you to start doing that too with your writing. I want you to start conditioning your brain into writing mode. And it was really easy for me because I had a routine and I knew exactly what I was doing. Another one, set some goals for yourself. Might be word count goal, might be a scene, might be write out a chapter, might be write for a certain amount of time. For me, I have a word count goal of just get a word on the page. That's my word count goal. Because personally for me, word count goals are rather toxic, and I find myself unmotivated when I do it, because then sometimes I just can't reach that word count goal and I'm like, damn it, and I beat myself up over it, when realistically I should be celebrating any words that get put on the page, because it's progression, you know, it's good, we like it. Cool, sometimes it's gonna be slower than normal. Like, that's okay. So for me, I set out a goal to write a certain scene or a certain number of scenes. It becomes so much easier because then I have, within my scenes, I have a little checkpoint of what I want to write out, and that's what I do, and I'm able to check it off as I write. And because I'm not focusing on word count, I'm focusing on just getting a scene done, it's so much easier. Because you might have written a scene and you don't know what to write for the next scene, but you're under your word count goal, and you're going to really stress yourself out, and you're going to try and write, and then you're going to become unmotivated because you're going to have like writer's block, and it's just not going to be a nice cycle. So sometimes word count works for some people, but for me, I like to set myself a scene or chapter goal, and that's the best.
Milo. A quack. Hello.
Pizza base has been secured.